Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mitzi.
We got our first podcast ad, and you'll never guess who it is.
Just tell me.
I Love Creatives.
Okay, that'll be an easy sell.
I know, it's where all the best creative people are. They're literally the reason why we have such a strong creative team. And we hired a recent designer from them.
Right. Didn't we post a job about it on the I Love Creatives job board?
Yeah, and we got so many people reaching out. Plus, I'm pretty sure took the graphic design course by I Love Creatives.
Yeah, I love how the course really sets you up for success as a graphic designer. You learn how to master the technical basics of the top 3 design programs like Figma, Photoshop, and Illustrator, and get a professional edge by helping you figure out your rates so you can get that income flowing in, honey.
Totally. Told me that the students actually also get one-on-one support from some of the best designers in the industry.
That is essential for an online course, real life instructors.
And you get this course forever, like forever, ever. That means access to any future updates because the design world is always changing.
Forever, ever? I like that.
If you're ready to level up your design skills, save your spot in the I Love Creatives graphic design course today at ilovecreatives.com or visit the link in this episode's description to learn more.
Welcome back to Waves, powered by Arcade Studios, a show for marketers, creators, and entrepreneurs who want to stop chasing the tide and start making waves online. We're your hosts, Mike and Mitzi.
For those who don't know, Mike and I are partners at Arcade, a digital marketing agency that specializes in social media, paid media, and email marketing. We just passed our 5-year anniversary, and today we're going to be answering questions that we've been sent on social media and from our team. Before we get into the questions, Mike, do you want to give the elevator pitch for Arcade since you do this all the time?
Happy to do it. Yeah, Arcade is a digital agency, like Mitzi said, and our service is a nice mix of strategy, content production, social media management, email marketing campaigns and newsletters, and paid media, which breaks down into things like paid social, search engine marketing, that kind of stuff. We also work with influencers and partnerships and, of course, creators. A lot of our clients are in the e-commerce space, although we've also cut our teeth in the entertainment industry and food and beverage and some other verticals like that. Either way, we have lots of fun.
Yeah, it's quite a wild ride. And 5 years felt like quite a milestone. Like a lot of businesses don't survive their first 5 years of business. So it just felt like something we wanted to commemorate and hopefully share some advice around building a business and building specifically an agency. So if there are agency owners listening, hopefully this is an episode that will help you as you continue growing.
Yeah, or even just aspiring agency people or freelancers who want to start building a team or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think we can agree that in the early days, it really is a lot of fake it till you make it. And then, once you get in as far as something like 5 years, you start to feel like you've tried some things, you've tested some things, you've failed a couple times, you've collected some wins, and you actually can speak from experience a little bit more and give some valid advice. But should we translate this through questions? You want to jump into the first one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So the first question we got, I think, is a great place to start. It says, you've experienced a lot of growth in your agency in the last 5 years. Could you describe the mindset required to accomplish that? Mindset, that's a good place to start.
I think, like you mentioned, we were faking it till you make it. We were trying to get as many opportunities as possible. And at the beginning, our mindset was more around delivering a service. So it was very focused on checking off boxes and making sure our deliverables were created and shared. And we almost looked at it when we thought about working with clients. It was like we were providing a menu of options that clients could have. And so it was like social media, check, digital marketing, check. And we're stuck in that zone. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just meant that we were going to purely be giving the client those specific deliverables, but not really being a partner in the overall goal of the business and the strategy of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So we were there for quite a bit. And I think that's such a hard place to get out of. It's a hard box to climb out of.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22 situation because it is probably the right place to start if you don't have a lot of experience in the industry or if you're new as a creative or whatever, because you have to gather experience, right? A lot of people do work for free even at the beginning. We really tried to avoid that, but you do end up kind of in this position of just in execution. Designers would call it pixel pushing, like you don't have any creative license. You don't really have a seat at the strategic table. And that's okay for a time, but we all got to kind of draw a line in the sand of where we're going to start saying no to those kinds of opportunities to make space for the kinds of opportunities that we actually want.
Mhm.
So there was a number of things that helped us start to get out of that and shift our mindset and to think like we can do more, we can add more value, we can get beyond just delivery and start thinking about outcomes. And that was a big transition for us.
Yeah, and I think what helped us get out of the box were partners. And for us, one of the partners that helped us was another agency, and they allowed us access to clients who pay more and demand more value and more quality. And so I think if we didn't have those partner client or partner agencies who would get the big clients and just subcontract us to do some piece of it, like that is what got us to another revenue tier because they were paying more, but they also demanded more from us. And I think we were able to kind of meet the demand by figuring out the systems and processes within our agency to deliver the quality that was needed for those clients.
Maybe there's a question in there that our listeners could ask around like how do you form partnerships? And we kind of came up as Arcade in the beginning around this time where agencies were less focused on being full service agencies and like offering everything to everyone and there was this move towards specialty and like more like niche service mixes. And so we really hung our hat on digital and specifically e-commerce. And that is what created the opportunity for us to work with some of these bigger, more established agencies and have an opportunity at more of the clients we wanted to work on, because we offered something that they didn't. So they were able to then in turn offer the service that we delivered and the expertise that we had gathered over time to their clients, and that was a value to them and the client as the end user. So that's one way that you can position yourself to set up partnership opportunities with other agencies, but it's also a great way to position yourself with clients if working with them directly because they want to know that they're working with an expert in what they specifically need. So just a
Mhm.
note on that.
Yeah, another
um,
way you could do that is through a podcast like this, which is what
hey.
helped us get access to a gentleman named Mike Germano. We have a really cool episode with him. And he is who tapped our shoulder for one of the biggest opportunities we've had as an agency, which is working on some good news. And
Mhm.
that allowed us access to a client that was looking for more value. So we were brought on to do social media, but what they really needed help with was using social to inform their show, and so it wasn't just checking off a box or posting something on Instagram. It was like finally an opportunity to give more value and help them reach their bigger goal, which was producing a weekly show.
Yeah. So the value, just to expand on your point there, the value that we were offering wasn't just managing the social media accounts for some good news, but it was
Right.
leveraging social media to create an environment or a funnel of content from around the world that could be used in this show that John was producing with Mike, and then also channel it into our social media platforms to continue building that audience. So there was an
Mhm.
outcome there that was the value and not just the action or activity.
Right. And now today, when we think about mindset and where's our mindset at when it comes to our agency and growing it, I think we're looking for clients who will pay more, but they're looking for supportive partners, marketing partners to achieve an outcome. So not just like the deliverables, but their bigger business goals are looking for stewards to kind of like managers digital marketing to help them achieve those outcomes. And that includes strategic and creative input.
We've worked with hundreds of clients at this point over the last 5 years. And over that time, we've just really worked hard at figuring out how to ask the right questions. Because if you're starting to think about an outcome as opposed to a deliverable, and knowing that there's more value attached to an outcome than a deliverable, really what an outcome means is a solution. Like they're going to come to you or they're going to come to us with a problem, a creative problem, a marketing problem, that needs to be solved. And if we can effectively solve it, then that is the outcome that they're paying us for. So the questions we ask are really important because it sets us up with the information we need to, one, identify the problem and then prescribe the solution, and then of course also still execute or do the activity that we believe will lead to the desired outcome. So these days we have 20 questions that we ask every single client when we onboard them in our discovery session. And that's not to say that that necessarily covers all the information we'll need in the lifetime of that relationship, but it gets us under the surface beyond just that initial ask that they came to us for. Because often a lot of clients don't even really know upfront what it is that they need or what they can even accomplish. And so beyond just identifying where the pain points are currently or what feels like an immediate need to them, we can understand the bigger picture, what they're trying to accomplish, what obstacles they're facing, and how our services and expertise can translate to success.
Yeah, so we put together these 20 questions. If you're interested in getting access to those questions, we designed this really beautiful PDF workbook that you can download and use for your own clients. And you can find that in the show description or in the YouTube description to get a link for that.
Even comes with a template you can use in Figma to fill it out, do a little Fig Jam.
It might not be in Figma.
No, I know, but you can use it in Figma.
Totally. We use Figma. Okay, let's
Cool.
jump into the next question here.
Take us there.
In the fast paced world of marketing, how have you managed to stay ahead of the curve and adapt your strategies?
Scan Club. Do you want to tell them about Scan Club?
Yeah. So earlier, no, last year, we brought on an amazing creative director. Her name is Alyssa Uhas. I believe we're going to have an episode with her as well. She's in the process, or she's becoming a futurist. And if you don't know what a futurist is, it's basically a way of looking at the world through and identifying signals that could point to a different future. So you can apply a futurist thinking and model and methodology to any type of industry. And she has been taking our team through an exercise. We do it twice every month, and we call it Scan Club. And basically, we identify signals in the world of digital marketing and if these signals get bigger or if they get smaller. So that has been really a really good exercise because it forces us to get out of like our day to day busyness and start to look at the world a bit more strategically and to consider if there's something that's happening that's catching our eye and if it could point to a future of like a new technology or a future way of creating content, or if we're seeing trends kind of pop up and what's feeding them and what's maybe helping them get smaller, things like that. And that has been something that's been really helpful for us.
Totally. Yeah, I think even just to add more context to what a signal could look like, even AI right now is a huge trend and there's so much momentum behind it. And if you rewind a couple of years, you could have looked to things like smaller tools that were somewhat AI based, like a Grammarly, for example, where you write something and it gives you recommendations to improve that. That's AI. It's not like a huge movement, but it's a nice practical tool that could signal more AI integration into future content production. But you could also look at tools or like features on social platforms like AR filters or kind of like visual augmentation that could point to more AI involvement in visual content as well. So it's really just trying to be early and recognizing things that could lead to bigger things. And I think that's a fun exercise or a fun place for us to be in because we're not just reacting to what's happening right now, but we're starting to think ahead to be like, okay, this is how we do things right now, but how could this lead to an evolved approach or more
Mhm.
access or better resources or tools and things like that?
Yeah, and on top of that, on top of Scan Club, we're also subscribed to a bunch of newsletters. I love newsletters. There's one of my favorite newsletters. We're going to have the creator of that newsletter on our podcast. Her name is Leah Haberman. Her newsletter is In Case You Missed It. It's a really good take on like the social media landscape and creator landscape, and I really love those. Besides that, we are not just producers of content, we're consumers of content, and we really like watch and read and listen to so much content all the time. And I think that kind of helps you create like a bit of a palette and really like we try to take an approach of like studying the content that we really like and kind of dissecting it and understanding like what makes it, eye-catching, or what about it felt like it resonated with us and things like that. Because most of our team were pretty conscious digital consumers, so if something hits and lands, we try to like dissect it.
Yeah, we like to say that we're romantics. We're romantic about marketing and what it can do in the world, and that includes content. So you're obviously going to be better at something if you're passionate about it and you're naturally immersing yourself in stuff like that. So always a challenge for us to be in the middle of everything and tasting it for ourselves. I always like to say we're early adopters, but we're also early adapters. So we like to be on the bleeding edge of like trying new things and knowing what's available and kind of vetting what we should be integrating into our process, like an AI, for example, and maybe what's not worth exploring at this time. But we like to be early adapters too. And that speaks to the previous question we were discussing and our ability to adjust quickly if we see trends changing or demands changing or problems or needs or whatever it might be. And that's been one thing that's always differentiated us. So I know as an agency, it's hard to feel like you have to always be evolving or always testing or always um, reevaluating what you're offering or how you're talking about it or even the tools you're using and how you're delivering things. But that's literally the thing that's going to keep you relevant. So
Mhm.
I would always be assessing pretty much the list I just said. What tools are you using? Are they the best in class for the service that you're trying to deliver? How are you creating content? Like written content was a huge thing in the past, but obviously, like photo and video has become even bigger. There's obviously still a place for written content like blogs and newsletters and even platforms like Twitter and stuff like that. But how are you addressing all those different content types at scale in a way that people are actually consuming right now? Because you're at the end of the day, you're trying to reach audiences. So if you're producing content in a way that people don't really consume it anymore, then it's just going to be irrelevant.
Mhm.
And then also the way you package things up, the way you talk about it, the way you communicate the outcomes that it can produce, all that kind of stuff translates to your ability to close a new client or position yourself as of value compared to their alternative options.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing that has helped us kind of like stay ahead and adopt new strategies is our owned social channels. So a lot of other agencies, they don't really invest a lot of time or resources in their own social media channels. And actually, there was another agency owner who once advised us not to because he said that nobody gives a shit about agency social media accounts. And we really
They said agencies aren't
Right, and
brands.
we really took that on as a challenge because we felt like we could create social media accounts that felt relevant and like someone could care about or care to follow. So, an example of that, like when TikTok started blowing up, we just jumped right in and crashed around. And that was kind of our playground where we could like test things out and like try different formats and try humor and things like that. And it just is an opportunity to flex some muscles and try and without the pressure of performing the way we would want to perform for a client.
That's led to massive conversations. Like we've been discovered by huge brands like Warner Media and Estee Lauder and GoDaddy, who spoiler alert, we just signed an agreement with them. And that's because of the stuff like Mitzi just said, like we're just diving in and trying it and being ourselves on those platforms and just not taking it too seriously, but having fun on it and just showing what's possible. And that gets attention because especially in the agency space, many aren't doing it.
Totally. Should we jump into the next question?
Yeah, building a successful agency requires a strong team. So, how have you nurtured and developed your team over the last 5 years? I feel like this has kind of evolved over time, like anything else. In the early days, it was very different than the way it is now. We started pretty much by just hiring our friends, whoever was like in proximity that had any kind of ability that was related to the work that we were doing. Anyone that was social media savvy, anyone that had any experience with like paid social boosting posts, running a conversion campaign, anyone that had like written a blog before could be a copywriter, like we just pulled in people from our immediate circle that felt like could be valuable. And they obviously had a connection and rapport with us. So there was more belief in what we were trying to build at the time from someone that knew us already. That isn't the way we do things now. And there was a point in time where it didn't serve where we were trying to go. But it also, I think we recognized it after a period of time that it just wasn't healthy for our personal relationships to continue going that way. That's not to say that we ruined any relationships. We still have great relationships with the people that were friends of ours that worked with us in the past, and a couple of them are still on the team. But we've just changed the way we think about who we're looking for and how we hire and how that contributes to where we're trying to take things.
Yeah, so I think we kind of evolved, and at some point we just knew that we needed to hire people who were just really, really good at what they were going to do. So we started kind of like following certain people and creating relationships with them. And then as soon as there was like an opportunity and we needed to hire someone, we knew exactly who that person was going to be because we had like followed them and we knew they were passionate about this and then we knew that they were excited about this. So I think we were really lucky too because at the beginning, our team naturally embodied some of the values that we had.
Right.
But as we started growing and expanding beyond like our friends' networks and things like that, we knew that we needed to define what these values are. And since we've defined that, I think it's made hiring so much easier because we kind of lead with that at the outset and we even ask questions about that in interviews and it's helped kind of like self-select some people who are aligned to these values and we actually call them standards. So I think that was such a good thing.
Yeah, that was a huge turning point for us when we realized that it was time to add words to those kind of like intangibles that had existed for the first few
Mhm.
years. And props to you because you've facilitated this process with your business coach. It felt really good. Like I feel like in hindsight we could say we should have defined these earlier or from the beginning. But those could have easily just been like almost like empty words on a website.
Totally.
If we had done that, I think the fact that we waited a while ended up serving us in the end because it feels really true to who we are and it feels really natural for us even as we bring on new people for them to quickly embody those values or those standards. Do you want to say what they
Yeah.
are?
So our standards are we have 4 of them. Be proud of who you are. This goes, it's basically like thinking about the whole person that you are, not just like where you come from, but everything that kind of involves the person of you and what you bring forward to the world. And we believe that like if people who are proud of who they are and they bring that to their work, it makes better work. So be proud of who you are is the first one. Always be in beta, which basically like is just a mindset of being open to change and always looking at something as like never fully finished and always being beta kind of helps us stay on top and evolve and be nimble and pivot and all these things. And I think that's an important quality if you're working in this industry. Be humble. That's one of the characteristics that we kind of saw was in common with everyone and humble in approach and being kind of like unoffendable and open. I think that's an important piece of the type of people we want to work with. And the final one is take it all the way, which basically means that like finishing something to its full, complete potential. So if you're instead of just like creating something and just kind of like focusing on the one single task that you have, try to think about like where this piece of content will go. What are questions that a client might have when they receive this? How are they supposed to distribute this? Do they have the tools to do that? All these things is kind of like everything that we do. And we try to take it all the way in all of our services.
Totally. I like to think of take it all the way as like going above and beyond too. Cause
Hmm.
I think at face value, it could almost feel like take it all the way and always be in beta are almost at odds. Cause being in beta is, like you said, it's kind of viewing it as never finished, but then take it all the way implies like taking it over the finish line. But really, it's like delivering more than we promise, but you can still do that and be in a habit or a cycle of testing and optimizing and iterating. You can produce a great strategy for upfront for a campaign or for a social program and take that all the way. But then 3, 6, 12 months from when you establish that strategy, you should have already have iterated on that multiple times and optimized it and done work to adjust it based on real-time data and results and outcomes so that we're producing the best that we can and continuing to react to the results that we see.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how those two things play together.
Yeah.
Really feel that having the right people is critical to our success as an agency, and we've hung our hat on that. Even Mitzi, you talked about how we're really active on our own social channels, and a lot of that content is just kind of embodying or showcasing the culture and the personalities of the people on our team. It's not really about selling our services or always just showing case studies or things like that, but really just showing how we can have fun together, what it's like to be here, what it's like to be at a photo shoot, whatever it may be. And that's because it really is a good culture. Everyone does have a really strong relationship here, and that's because we're meticulous about the people we add one by one to the team. It's also because we've worked really hard, especially as revenue has improved over the last couple of years for us. We've tried to be aggressive in how we position ourselves compared to other agencies as an attractive place to work. So that means paying above the industry standard, well above the industry standard for the roles that we have on our team, all the way from juniors up to senior level, like director level roles. We also last year, for the first time, switched from your typical 2 to 3 weeks of vacation time and a few sick days and flex days or whatever it might look like where you work to actually 25 what we called wellness days, which is basically vacation. But it's just kind of comprehensive of whatever you need for your personal wellness. So that can be planned vacation time where you're away, you're completely offline, you're not working, you're going to a different part of the world or whatever it might be. Or it could be you wake up one morning, you just feel like you can't do it. You need a mental health day. Could be sick days. It could be time to visit friends when they're in town, whatever it might be. And really, we just wanted to be more accommodating to the humans on our team because we know that they have life outside of work. Um, and we also wanted to still add a specific number to it because we have read a lot about unlimited vacation and some of these policies that other companies have adopted and found that it actually doesn't cause people to take more time off. The average time off used by employees in North America when they have 15 days of vacation is 15 days of vacation. The average that people take when they have unlimited vacation is actually less than that. It's 13. So evident data shows that people actually take less time even when they have unlimited vacation policies because there seems to be this kind of like unwritten expectation that you don't take time off. And also it allows companies to get away with not paying out unused vacation at the end of the year, which is kind of shady. So for us, we decided to go with a specific number. We increased it above the average to 25. And we're really proud that our team actually used 99% of their wellness days last year. So on average, it was 24 or 25 days. And that among like health spending accounts and other benefits and things like that really has been something that has helped us become an even more desirable place to work, but also produce better work as a team because when people can show up healthy and happy and know that they have what they need and that their employers care about them and they are equipping them and empowering them, then obviously the outcome, coming back to outcome again, is going to be better.
Totally. Next question here. Do you have a favorite moment from the last 5 years? I know you're going to say it's working with me, but besides that,
Yeah, well, I think that one can go without saying.
it's nice.
Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
That's nice.
Um, but yeah, I think there's a couple for me. Taking our entire team to a conference last year was really cool. That's not cheap, but it's also such an important, valuable experience. And it really was cool to be able to go for multiple days with the whole team and just be inspired, take in, um, interesting sessions from people like with global influence and stuff like that. That was really iconic for us. I also really, really was proud of winning a Webby in 2020 around our work with Some Good News because that just really shows that we're again delivering what we say we will and making a difference. And one of the things we talk about is that we want to influence culture. I think on our website it says moving culture with the power of media, and that was an opportunity to do that, and it was recognized as such. And then recently, signing the biggest brand that we've ever worked with, which I'm just going to come out and say it is GoDaddy, and that's a product of just like building a relationship over time with people that also do great work and then being recognized when the opportunity comes up as a great partner.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've talked about this a few times, but our episode specifically with some good news around graduation was just such a great career highlight for me. If you're unfamiliar, Some Good News is a show that we produced with John Krasinski during COVID. We had a graduation episode where we wanted to honor the graduates who were graduating at home because, of course, all the ceremonies were canceled. And so we were tasked with finding potential students who are graduating who would submit or share their graduation speech on social media. And I found one from this guy in Texas, and he was graduating from university, and he had such a inspiring like grad speech that he filmed and posted on Twitter. And so I selected him, and what ended up happening is that he was pulled into the episode and got to be on a Zoom call. He was graduating with a film degree, and so he was on a Zoom call with John Krasinski and Steven Spielberg. And so obviously two
That's wild.
iconic directors. And they had a really cool conversation. And then after the episode aired, he tweeted a screenshot of him with John and Steven Spielberg. And he said, just three directors hanging out. And then he also tweeted that, in COVID, when he felt really alone and he felt like no one saw him, he felt like this was a small moment that helped him feel seen. And I think social media can be a hard business, and it can be a business that doesn't feel deep or impactful. But I think for me, that was an opportunity that kind of helped make it feel like I kind of helped someone out in a dark time. So I think that was just a really important moment for me. Outside of that, I think moving into our own office was a really fun moment for us as well. We were in a co-working space and then having our own space, something I've always dreamed of with our sign on like the door and like our logo on the building. It was really cool. And then a yearly highlight for me is our Christmas parties. Again, something I always wanted to do. So we like have a budget and we just kind of like have a really great kick-ass party and invite everyone's spouses and partners, and it's just a really good time. So those are definitely some of the highlights.
Yeah, those Christmas parties have been iconic, and I have to give you and our event planner, Danny Anderson, a lot of credit for those.
It's pretty fun.
Don't know how you're going to one up it this year, but I'm sure you will.
Oh yeah, we got some ideas.
Got another question here that I'm excited to chat about. It is, have you ever felt like you've made it? And if so, can you describe that moment? What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I think this is a yes and no. So yes, in the sense
Mm.
that like I feel like I have my dream job. I get to work with people that I really care about. They're some of the best in the industry, and I get to do it on my own terms, and I get to create something and build something that creates opportunities for other people. And I get to immerse myself in social media and culture and publishing, and these are all things that I've always loved. So I feel like the lifestyle I have and the type of work that I'm doing, that's my dream. I still feel like I have a lot more I want to do, and I don't feel satisfied or don't feel like I've arrived in the sense. And I truthfully won't stop until we get a reality show. So there's still lots ahead of us.
I keep hearing about this reality show. I'm not so
Yeah. How
sure.
about you?
But yeah, I totally agree. I think you nailed it. And I think also kind of my answer is in the question itself of like I would call it made it moments, you know. There's been moments along the way where we can just kind of like take a step back and acknowledge that that was an accomplishment, and that feels like something like proof that we're where we should be, we're doing the work and it's worth recognition. And that can be a variety of different things, both external and internal, you know. Some of them we've already talked about, like winning an award or getting a dream client or establishing a really productive relationship or even being able to pay our team above average or offer something that another company can't offer, or even pay ourselves comparable income to the team that we have, you know, because often, you know, I think there's a book called Leaders Eat Last. Often leaders get paid last too. And that's the harsh reality of building a business sometimes as well. Being able to move into the kind of home that we've always wanted to have, being able to support a growing family. There's all sorts of different made it moments that I can look back and kind of mark along the way. And I should recognize too that my tendency hasn't been to recognize or even celebrate those moments when they happen. My personality is more like, okay, we did that. Now what's next? Where are we going from here? And I just move on to the next thing pretty quickly. But that's another reason that working with you has been so important, is that you're really good at marking the moments and taking time to celebrate, and just causing us to pause. And that's something that I've been working on getting better at as well.
Yeah, the thing about me is I'll always look for a way to give myself a little treat.
A reason for a margarita or a
Exactly.
prosecco or something like that. Yeah, I think that's really important, and I'm glad. I want us to keep viewing it
Mhm.
that way, because I think, yeah, you could say that we've made it, but viewing yourself as like in a state of success or having arrived, I think is the starting point of complacency. And that's where you start to kind of relax your grip a little bit and start to slow down and be a little bit less agile. And suddenly you're reacting instead of being proactive, and not evolving as quickly, or just kind of getting stuck in your
Mhm.
ways. And we never want to be in that position.
Yeah, it's such a tricky balance because on the one side you have to like acknowledge, all that you've done and the road to like building something or building a business is so hard. So if you don't have those moments to like acknowledge it, it's really hard to keep going. But on the other
Hmm.
side, like it's all about perspective because if you take Arcade and compare it to like another bigger agency, like they would see us as like small potatoes and like we haven't like really done anything. But I think it just like whatever I think everyone should just like define what their made it moments are for them and then celebrate them when they happen and keep on adding to that list.
Like you always say, we want people that are humble and hungry. And that's kind of the state we always need to be in as a team or as leaders. Is we're humble about how much further we still have to go, but and that also kind of feeds our hunger for to accomplish more and to continue optimizing, and keep us in beta like we talked about. So
Totally.
yeah, it's really important.
Okay, let's go on to the next one here. If you had to redo it all again, would you change anything? You want to take this one first?
I think one thing that has served me a lot in the last few years as a leader and as a agency owner is having a few people who are in the same industry, that have accomplished things, that have expertise, and have like built trust and a reputation, that are willing to give advice and be a sounding board, and even just be a friend when you need it, a friend that understands what you're experiencing. um, and I would say I didn't have that for the first few years. And it may be that I didn't know how to look for it or how to ask for it. But eventually, and I don't think there's like a recipe for, I don't know if it's like asking someone to be your mentor, or just like building a mutually beneficial relationship that ends up kind of compounding into advice and guidance and stuff like that. But at some point another, you got to figure out how to do that for you, and invite people in. But just with the caveat that when you're going to do that, it needs to also, especially if they're more accomplished than you and their time is in higher demand than you, then you need to find a way to make it really accommodating to them and their schedule and availability, but also somehow like validating or rewarding to them, So whether that's just like being honoring enough to like pay for the coffee when you go for coffee, or get them a gift once in a while to celebrate an accomplishment of theirs or something like that. But just creating reciprocal value, I think, is really important. But that's really been a huge piece of me growing in my role, and being able to kind of see outside of my bubble and be challenged to try new things, or not to just be satisfied where a certain aspect of our business is at. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think I'd redo anything because, they always say, like, it all led you to where you are now, which is so true and kind of
Right.
cliche. But I think if I could go backwards, I would. I wish I spoke up more. I think when I was earlier in my career, I just was maybe too shy or just like, I don't know, just wasn't as confident as I am now. And I would hold back ideas or I wouldn't speak up in meetings. And now I feel like I don't hold anything back. I just like spit it out there all the time. And I wish I had that confidence early on because what I discovered is when I wouldn't say an idea, someone else would offer an idea. And sometimes, their idea wasn't always better than mine. And sometimes it was, but a lot of times it wasn't. And I wish I had just like spoken up and had my voice heard a bit more. And I think the other thing I wish I had done earlier was investing in myself a bit more. So I've talked a little bit about how I had a business coach, which was such a game changer for me. And I think once we started building out our team and I was responsible for more activities and more people as well. I just knew that I needed to improve my skill sets when it came to leadership and communication. And I wish I had done that earlier because that helped me gain that confidence. So I wouldn't change anything because I did end up doing that, but I wish I had just like done it a bit earlier so I'd have the benefit of that for a
Mhm.
bit longer. But other than that, like
Yeah,
it all led to here.
that's a great way to put it. Speaking of wishing you did things earlier, I would say the same about just being able to recognize red flags in prospective clients or even employees. But I'm thinking about it more through the lens of clients, because I think you don't necessarily know these things right away in the beginning when you're starting out and just starting to work with
Mhm.
clients. But over time, you're going to start to see trends of certain personality traits or certain methods of communication or certain decisions or requests that are made by a prospective client before you even start that you can recognize as red flags that can lead to trouble in the future.
Mhm.
And I think I there was a delay from when I started picking up on those things to when I started to actually like use those to guide my decision making. And I think we took on clients probably in the kind of in the middle of that 5 years. We took on clients sometimes that we felt like could be problem clients and ended up being problem clients. And I mean, hindsight is 2020, but you got to listen to your gut. And it's not just to keep from losing money on a project, but it can also translate to pain for your team, like the people that are working on that account, taking verbal abuse or sometimes obviously losing money because your project just ends up at this like endless cycle of revisions that never actually sees the light of day and you just burn so many calories on it beyond what you scoped or whatever it may be. But you really got to recognize early what those flags are and then have a kind of like a decision making process that is informed by that so that you protect yourself and your team and your bottom line, and you'll be better for it even though it feels like you need the cash right now.
Mhm. Okay, next question. Looking ahead, where do you see arcade going in the next 5 years? Well, watch out for a reality show.
I saw that
Just
coming.
kidding.
Yeah,
Kind
maybe.
of kidding.
I feel like a shorter form reality show, like maybe on like YouTube or TikTok or something like that, where it's like smaller bite-sized pieces that just kind of follow some sort of like story or like character arc with our
Okay.
team. It could be a possibility, but I'm not really trying to be on like Bravo or
No, I
something
don't
like
think we
that.
need to be we're not like housewives material, but I'm
You're
saying
not?
no, I'm not. I'm saying like
Oh,
I'll settle for YouTube. YouTube's great,
cool.
but it's got to be more than just TikTok. Um, that was a joke kind of, but mostly I think what we are looking ahead in the next 5 years will include courses and digital products. And we will be working on that. We're actively working on that. And so we're really excited to share more of that. We have so many things that are already built into our process and how we work. So we're excited to share that with the world and make it more accessible to everyone who's listening.
Yeah, we love being an agency, but we also just want to be more than an agency. So courses and products and video production and all this stuff, I feel like our vision really is to become more of a media
Mhm.
company because we love content, we love marketers and creators, we love the platforms. This is what we like eat, breathe, and sleep, like so that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build something bigger. We'll always continue delivering our agency services, but in an ideal world, we'd have profit coming from other channels and we'd be able to really even be more meticulous and selective about the clients we take on and do better work for them and bigger work for them, stuff that we can really look back on at the end of our careers and say, man, that was some cool shit.
Mhm.
And also create an engine that produces money while we sleep, because then we can be with our family more and live life more.
Mhm.
So can our whole team.
The other thing that we are working on that we're going to release likely before this episode is out is our studio, our video studio. We have heard from TikTok a few times, and their goal is to replace agencies like ours with creators. They think that creators can do the job of producing videos with a marketing perspective. And I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I do think that agencies like ours can provide a bit more strategic um, insight and just like overall strategy to content. So I think our goal is to make video a bit more achievable for clients, so that will be also something else that we're going to really focus on.
Challenge accepted. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to note, like, I think, like you said, we don't necessarily disagree, but it's clear that there's a lot of bad UGC out there when brands are working directly with creators. And that's not all UGC. There's good UGC, there's bad UGC. But I think what makes bad UGC is just content that lacks execution or lacks strategy.
Mhm.
It's execution that lacks strategy. Um, and also just like platform expertise and stuff like that. So, what an agency like ours can add beyond just creating the content is the strategy and the platform expertise. So,
Yeah.
we're going to produce UGC that actually works.
Yeah. Anything else that we're hoping to see Arcade do in the next 5 years?
Yeah, we've never been like huge on having a bunch of locations, but we decided this past year that we really wanted to set up shop in Vancouver. So the wheels are in motion on that. One of our team, Manny, is moving out there this summer to lead the way with that. We also have another employee out there who has been holding it down, so it'll be fun for her to have a co-conspirator, and we'll continue building. We'll probably open up our internship program at some point to students in Vancouver as well. We've always had a lot of clients in that area. I think partially, Mitzi, because you're from there, but also because it's close in proximity to us. And um, the world just got smaller
Mhm.
when through COVID and as like Zoom became a bigger thing and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So we're doing that. That might open doors for other stuff on the West Coast, maybe, someday an LA office or something like that. And the world is our oyster from there.
Yeah, maybe trend reports in the future if we can kind of evolve
Mhm.
Scan Club a little bit. So there's lots up our sleeves, but who knows? Who even knows what kind of platforms will exist by then?
Yeah, we got some big plans, but lots of that is gonna change, and then more is gonna bubble to the surface, and that's what makes this fun.
Totally.
But Mitzi, one question we ask every guest on this show, and I wanna make sure I ask you, and I'm sure you'll turn this back on me as well, but who is making waves right now and why?
Well, Mike, I'm so glad you asked that question. I had two people, creators in mind for this one. One, her name is Nisha Johnny. She's at Nisha Johnny. I'll make sure that we tag it in the description and show notes. But she is an amazing videographer, photographer, creator, and she is self taught and decided to kind of take this like video and photo thing more seriously. And I think in 2020 and now she produces videos for some like the biggest events in the world. Like she's at every single fashion week. She's at Cannes right now. She's done every single celebrity that you can think of.
She's at Dwayne Wade's
The
house.
content is just so good. And I just feel so proud of her because I feel like she kind of led us in on the journey that she's had over the last 5 years. And the access that she's had to people is just incredible. So she's definitely one that I'm watching and I'm such a big fan of. The other one that I want to mention, his name is Tim Chusano. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But he's a creator based out of New York. And he's kind of like he's a 40-year-old white dude and his content shouldn't be that interesting, but the way he does storytelling, I find it so compelling and kind of romantic. Like he really creates some wonder around like the mundane moments of everyday life. And so I feel really inspired by him. So he's another one that I'm watching. How about you?
Yeah, his voiceovers have a really unique cadence to them, but it's captivating. Yeah, for me, one person I wanted to mention is now a friend of mine named Asim Overstands. He's a local to Calgary, and he's actually his career is in finance. That's his day to day, but he's really passionate about creative and film. He's a great photographer, but he's also become a director and producer of these really creative short films. I know some of them are on CBC, and yeah, one thing I like about him beyond just the creativity of his work is that he really lifts up his community. He casts for his films and shows from local people, many of whom are not even actors, but he just sees something in them and wants them to give it a try. And then, of course, like his production teams and everything like that are sourced from here too. So it's easy, especially in an industry like film, to go to a place like LA or New York or wherever, Nashville even, but to really just focus on your local community and still be able to produce work at a really high caliber is so inspiring to me. So I just wanted to mention him. And then another one that I was going to talk about too is a platform called Durable. It's in the AI space. They just kind of like hacked together this website builder, and then it went viral. And now I think just in the last 6 months, there's been over 2 million websites built on their platform. They also have a Google ad writer. And let me see what there's another feature that I thought was cool. Oh, yeah, business name generator on the platform as well. So there's lots going on in the AI space, and it seems like everyone's trying to get in on it, but this was just such a interesting, like innovative take that just kind of came from nothing that I thought was really cool and obviously resonates because people are using it. And it solves a problem that a lot of people can't do on their own, which is building a website. So
Love it.
pretty dope.
Those are great.
Yeah,
Well, that was fun, Mike. Thanks for recapping the last 5 years.
of course. I feel like there's so many more rabbit trails we could follow, but
I
for
know.
future solo
I
episodes.
was just gonna say, now that we've whet your palate, go eat something more substantial.
Oh, wrong show. But yeah, if you haven't already, we have another weekly show that airs on Instagram Live and TikTok Live every Thursday at noon. It's noon now, right?
Noonish.
Or do we do it at 12:30 still? Noon, 12:30 MST. And then we release it every Friday morning on podcast platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. So check it out. It's shorter.
Called Tea for Lunch.
It's based on marketing news and pop culture and the stuff that's happening in real time. And then, of course, if you haven't already, follow Waves and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen. We've got lots to look forward to in this season and much more to come.
Thanks for listening.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning into Waves. If you enjoyed this episode, you can hit the subscribe button, drop a comment, or give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to follow along on social at Hello Arcade, and we will see you next time.